Today we're going to be adjusting the valves on a 2013 Super 8, KYMCO Super 8 150. What I've done is watched a couple YouTube videos, and I've also got my service manual here, and went over the valve clearance section of the service manual and read over that just to familiarize myself with it. And I got it out here in the garage just to make sure to have it handy. I am doing this for the first time, and for me it makes me a little nervous to do this because I'm not a big engine guy, but everybody says it's really easy to do. So first things first is to remove some covers. First thing we're going to do is remove the seat box, or the Met box. That is 6 screws. They're all 10 millimeter. 2 here in the back. 2 nuts on either side right here. 2 screws in the front, down in the center of the box. I don't know if you can see that very well. One there. Oops. One there. One there. And then this Phillips head screw in the front. And then this whole seat area will lift out. Okay, with those 7 screws out, just grab it by the seat in the back here, and it lifts out. Now, something I always do when I'm taking screws out is I make sure that I lay the screws out like they came out of the scooter. That way, if they're different lengths or anything like that, you can see the single Phillips head screw in the front, then the 2 bolts, then the 2 nuts, and then the 2 screws again in the locations that they were at. That way I know I'm putting the exact same screw in the exact same spot. Next is the battery cover here, and that comes off with 2 Phillips head screws in the front here. And then we pop off with this. I really don't like the design of this. There's not a good way to get this thing off of here. I feel like I'm tearing up this floorboard and this cover every time I got to take this thing off. So screws and cover together over here with the parts. Now we pop the front center cover off. There's 4 tabs that run down along each side through here that we just need to get our fingers on and snap off. There's one side. Once you start them, they come pretty easy. And the center cover is off. I've taken a look at this, and as far as I'm concerned, there's a bit of a design flaw with the Super 8 150 and getting this valve cover off. There's 6 bolts, 1 here, 1 down in there, you can see that, farther down, that one right there, and then 1 down in the bottom here, and then these 2 for this pipe. They tell you to take off, in the service manual, they tell you to take off these 2 and these 2 here to take this pipe thing off. But I'm thinking that I can just take off these 2 and remove the pipe with the cover at the same time. You also have to remove 2 hoses. This hose here, which this clamp will slide back, and the breather hose on the top, which this will slide back and pop off of there. The only issue I have is this bolt down here in the bottom. You'll see is obstructed by this right plastic piece here. I'm the service manual told me to take off the rear cover. Well, the rear cover is this whole piece here, and that's all connected to this down in here, and there's a whole host of things that's got to come off this scooter to get that panel to come off. Screws underneath the backside up through here, and the rack cover there and all that. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to try just flexing this back because you can't take this black piece off by itself. It looks like all the screws are accessible. There's a couple down, one here and 3 along the top here, but previous experience with taking this apart, this screw right here, you can't get a screwdriver back in there because of this frame bar right here. If you had a right angled Phillips head screwdriver that was small that maybe you could stick in there and do that, you could take this panel out, but I do not have one of those. So I'm thinking right now that I need to invest in one of those, because this is the second time in 4 months of owning this scooter that I've needed to get this panel off here without removing all the extra around it. So I think maybe this weekend I'll look into that, but for now I will just flex this panel back and get my socket in there to loosen that one up. Loosening these in a diagonal pattern, just like you would a car tire lug wrench. Just getting them loose. You can see the cover pulling away. Okay. Now we'll take them off by hand. This one down here, I'm going to have to, because it's hard to get to, maybe I can rotate it with this. Because it's hard to get my finger back in there. Support that with your fingers, because you don't want to drop that down below. Support the cover when you take your last bolt out so it doesn't drop. And voila! Check the condition of the seal. Make sure that looks good, and it does. Note there is a gasket on this exhaust. I'm going to slide back down on there. It looks like it's in good shape. And I'm going to take, when I put this off the side, I'm going to take these bolts and put them back in the exact holes that they belong in, because they are different lengths. And set that off to the side. Okay, there are your valves. One here and one here. Here's your cam. Here's your chain. And what you need to do before you adjust these is you need to set your piston to top dead center. And top dead center will be in a position when there are holes in the side of this drive gear here. And you see there's a small one. There's two small ones and a large one. The two small ones have to line up with the side of this valve where the valve cover goes on. And then the large one has to point out the front of the bike. Okay, so there's another way to tell, and that is to rotate the stator around here. And there is a plastic plug that goes into this hole right here. You pop that out of there, and there is a mark in there. I'm going to try to get a light in there when I get this thing set to top dead center. To get it there, you take a 14mm wrench and you stick in the side of here and you rotate it clockwise, and clockwise only. As soon as I get this set to the right way. Okay, so you rotate it like that, and you can see it's turning. There's the large hole right there, so I may be really close to top dead center just the way this thing was sitting. I'm going to come back here and verify. Okay, so in the hole there you can see a V shape, and that's your line up area. And then as I move that light, you can kind of see on the wheel here, there's a you can really only see the horizontal part of the T. The vertical line is kind of hard to see because it's focusing in the wrong area. I can't get that to focus right, but you can see that that T is lined up in that V slot there. Okay, and then the large hole is pointed toward the front of the scooter. And once again, it's hard to see because this cover, the side cover here is not off. But if you look down in here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the two small holes are lined up vertically along this open point there. So now we can adjust these valves, and basically I'm going to measure them first with a feeler gauge and see what they are, and then if they're off we will loosen this nut here, rotate this screw until it's to the right position, and then lock the nut back down. There's the top one and there's the bottom one there.